All right, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today on inventory audit line counts. I'm Andrea from the MJ Freeway Marketing team. We're going to be going over lots of fun stuff today just to get started. If you do have any questions, there should be a section over on the right where you can submit Q&A questions. We will be addressing as many as we can. If we missed your question, feel free to reach out to our team. If you have team members who can't make it to today's webinar, no worries. We will be sending this out following the webinar. So you can stay trained, get the whole team up and ready to go. And with that, Seth, my friend, are you ready?
I'm ready, yes.
All right. All you, my friend.
Welcome, everybody. So today we're going to look at inventory audit. We're going to look at the general workflow of doing an audit. We'll look at some of the nuances. Then specifically after that, so we can chop that off and use it for a training, we'll talk about some upcoming updates, which after a few weeks from now won't be upcoming. Some things that are in flight, and then we can jump into any questions from really anywhere. So first, we have the reconciliations button here, and we have adjust and inventory audit. We're actually going to talk about both of them, but to start, we're just going to talk about inventory audit. So the intention here is that this is a blind audit that can be done whenever, and things can kind of just be scanned and counted and entered without too much, logistics in between like each item. So for instance, we have one inventory audit here that we can export into Excel, and we'll look at that in a second. What the general function though is going to be, so we're going to look at this brownie, this 100 milligram brownie, which I know they can't do brownies in PA, but we're going to look at a unit-based item that's 100 milligrams. And so of course, like in here, it's telling us we have 76 of those items. And so I can start an audit, and then it's going to ask me from which location, since we kind of allow, the same barcode to be in multiple locations. If you do like the quick move, this is a location plus barcode combination. So you can count just the safe, and that'll be its own line item, even if there's like a bunch of the units of that thing on the floor. And then I'm cutting and pasting here, but this can be a scan. But as soon as you do that, it knows that it's a brownie. And then this is the spot where you'd put in the physical count. So we saw that I had 76. I'm going to do 50. So we see like a huge difference. And then we can put notes in here. Now I can do one of two things. I can scan another item, or I can complete audit. And so scan another item just opens up the fields. We're still scanning from the same location because the same an audit is location specific. And then we would scan a new barcode and put a new count in. So at any point after you're scanning, you can leave this page. So I'll leave it by just refreshing it, but then we'll see a new audit show up. And so we can see the date and the timestamp. So the one I was playing with that we'll see in a second was on yesterday, 5/8. This one, 5/9, 10:04 Mountain Time. And then I can go in here and continue the audit. So like, for instance, if I look at export audits, this will drop an Excel sheet up here. And before we continue, we'll look at a one-off audit. And so what we have is package ID, category, item, location. And then we have what the physical count was. So this is what we think it is right now. And then we have the total when the audit was started, the total current. We'll look at a scenario where these change if something gets sold, like at the point of sale or on a sales order during, like in the middle of what somebody's audit. I mean, if your workflows are, stuff doesn't get touched when it's getting audited from a location, that's great. But it does give you the ability to see if there's been a change in the actual item count during the audit. And then we have the discrepancy. So of course, 50 from 76 is 26. So this is a column you can look right down and see positives, negatives, big numbers, small numbers, and see if anything jumps out at you. I have lazily put this item in the system with no cost, but this will tell you the cost of the item, and then this would tell you the cost of the adjustment. So this would be like if it was a $5 item, it'd be 5 times 26 to show you the overall dollar amount that is the discrepancy. And then we have scan time versus audit start time. And these were, I mean, I did it right back to back, but we'll see where this changes on the audit that I did from yesterday. So in general, now what can happen is I'm not in an audit. I can start a new audit, and we'll look at why that actually works just fine. But I can also pick up a previous audit. So if I continue the audit, this will bring me back to here. It's a location specific audit. I'd scan a barcode, put it in here, and this would tell me on the different day and time stamps when each item was scanned in. So I can see if an audit took somebody 5 minutes or if it took across like 2 days of doing stuff, just from the entry times. Now we have 2 audits in this system, and it's all about that brownie right now. So the first audit that I mean I could export, but this is what it looks like. What we see here are 2 different physical counts of the same item. So like this is a case where knowing the time of the scan becomes crucial. Ideally you're not counting the same item twice, but maybe you need to, and maybe you do accidentally, and it just shows both of them. And then you could see like, common items or take the most recent one or whatever it is. So we're going to see where the same item exists at the same time on the audit. Now, what we're going to do right now is go and remember we have that first audit still open. So I can go into it and continue the audit. I haven't completed it yet. We have these brownies here, and we're going to go ahead and sell some of the brownies. So I think this order has 10 brownies on it. I should have done trochees. All right, so we have 10 there. Now remember our starting inventory was 76 brownies. And so we've sold 10. So now when I come back here, I can continue audit. I can export this audit. Okay. So we had a physical count of 50. We had, here, open these headers up. So MJP total quantity during audit, that's the quantity when the audit started, and then MJP total quantity current. So if I pick the audit back up, I can see that, if I started one at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, I can see any difference in here is the change in the inventory when the audit was either started or picked back up. So 50 might be right, but it might not be. I might actually have, 40 at this point. And this would allow us to audit that difference of there was a change in the actual inventory of 10 between the start of the audit and the current inventory. Now, that pretty much kind of explains this one. This one had, started with 86, then went to 76. Then we picked the brownie back up a day later, scanned it again, and it's at 99. And it shows that this one started at 76 and it's still currently at 76 the second that we pulled it. We have a -6 and a +23. And this just gives you the ability to, instead of going and remembering if you've scanned something, you can just pull stuff off, keeping in mind this is a blind count. So the person counting might not have access to doing the exports or seeing what they've already scanned. So they can just keep going. So this just gives an idea of, this is kind of one of the main columns people use. And when this is at 0 or acceptable level of, loss, then physical count then would go into the adjust page where we can actually make the adjustments. And this is kind of a separate training, but it's so closely related. Oops, sorry. And it has to do with the upcoming feature. So the question becomes, of course, on here, we can go by category. We can look at items and make changes. We don't really need to look at the brownie, but for instance, this is like 100 grams. If I actually had 50 grams, I type in 50 and it tells me what my discrepancy is. So right here from the discrepancy, it's a nice, like if it's a positive, then it's green. If it's negative, it's a red. So I can see what huge discrepancies are here, if any. Now, the obvious question is, okay, so I've done the, spreadsheet and counted stuff, and now I come over here and manually type it in. That's a little intense. And the idea, we're keeping the spreadsheet because we really want the ability for, after a blind count, for things to be looked at before any adjustments are done. That said, let me get rid of this zoom bar up here. The next effort is to import that audit sheet. Now, this is an effort we're about a third of the way done on. So like another week, it'll be done, another week in QA and all that stuff, but it's very close. And so it'll be the ability to import an audit into the adjust, AKA reconciliation page. Right. And so effectively, like this is one of the mock-ups, right? Now that reconciliation page will have an upload and it will have a download template in case you don't use our audit function. This just tells you which columns are which is really just, like we've seen here, the relevant columns for an update are A through E, and really A, D, and E. As long as we know the package code, the sales location. So you'd be able to take your own spreadsheet, put in package codes, sales locations, we have to know where it is, and then physical counts. And you'd be able to upload it into that reconciliation. Oh, there's the Jira. You'd be able to upload that into the reconciliation. What that will do, we'll have a new tab here for like all adjustments, right? So you don't have to do, like if you have stuff in 4 different categories, you don't have to upload the same sheet 4 times. And so the sheet will upload, and all it's going to do is pull up auto-populated with whatever numbers are from column E into these fields. So your physical count only goes on the UI. So like you still have the chance to look and see discrepancies. It's not changing the database until you hit adjust all. And there's also a universal adjustment reason. So you'll be able to like click a universal reason like reconciliation and it'll populate for all items. So you're never at a point where you actually have to go down and touch every single item in here. And so that's coming up in probably the next 2 or 3 weeks to be able to upload an audit into the reconciliation and hopefully save a bunch of time. Now, to get over explanatory here, one of these scenarios, the brownies, well, the logic is going to be that it takes the most recent audit. So like you could have brownies audited on here 30 times and it will just take the most recent based on the timestamp of the time that was scanned in. And, one of the nice things about this audit page, I guess this has got to be still part of the first video, Andrea, because we're going back to the audit. I can do this. I can go knock one of these out, check both of them, export those details. And then that spreadsheet will have all of the scans from all of the sheets together on it. And since we're just, banging on this brownie so much, this has 3 brownie scans. But on that logic, it will import the most recent brownie scan, which was 30 minutes ahead of the second most recent. Meaning you can have different managers go do different categories or different locations or whatever, and all do their own scan sheets and then check off a whole bunch of them, export the whole thing at once, and now, kind of take forever to manually put them in on the adjustment sheet, which will be uploaded. So it won't take forever in the next, kind of feature touch of this area. And so that's the workflow or workflows. Let's see what we have in chat here. So the patient's the patient's cart, it's Rob and I just had a meeting about reservations this morning. Well, that'll be coming in the upcoming times. As you know, like a reservation in the system happens when something gets fulfilled. So when packages get added on the fulfillment screen, this takes into account just when something is sold. So if we are like that in the flow of stuff where there's some stuff in reservation and stuff sold, and we're trying to reconcile that same location, that's gonna, there's no difference for this export that tells the difference between stuff that was currently in a cart but not sold versus like stuff that was sold. If that became like the crux of this whole thing, certainly it could be done. We'd have to build some soft reservations probably and things like that. But it's basically when the payment happens and it totally removes from inventory, not just reservation, that's when it factors into the new current existing inventory on that column F or G or whatever it was. Will there be a notes section on the mass reconciliation screen? There certainly could be. I guess now the question there is it a notes field? Well, actually, is it one mass notes or notes for each one? And if it's notes for each one, would we just want the notes coming over from the adjust screen, or do we want a difference between auditor notes from the audit and then manager notes from the actual adjustment page? So I guess if we flush that out a little bit, that it would make perfect sense to, of course, bring the notes over from the audit. Possible to add in the items not scanned in report in every export? Well, no, that just has to be chosen as an option. And thank you for bringing that up. So this box does have to be checked, but then it can be checked for every time you export it. So what this does is it's like, how do I totally missed this on the first go around. So like, this is what items have I not counted? So, if you go in, you're blind counting. Of course, you could certainly miss like the chocolate, or there's no chocolate bars, the, lemon troches of the 30 kinds of troches you have on the shelf. And so then this would so when you export it, you get all the items. And this works just fine already for as far as the import flow, because we don't put a 0 in the column. We just leave it blank, right? So like anything that's blank under physical count, you can go back and let them know, like, these are all the flower items or these are all the items, period. I have a small site, so it's like so we can demo on it pretty well. But these are all the items that didn't get scanned that are in sales location 1. And here's what their counts are and so on. So good question. Thank you for that reminder to talk about unscanned items. We can put that request in. So the question is, can we make this button bigger? Which we can, but we're not iterating on this actual page right now. So I'll have to put that in the backlog.
So that looks like it's most of our Q&A for today. As a reminder, we will be doing these webinars weekly on Thursdays at 12 p.m. Eastern. So please feel free to pop in, make sure that your team members are signed up so they can join in for future webinars. We will be sending out a recording of this if you'd like to share it with your team and keep everyone trained up. And with that, I think that's everything. Thank you all so much. There will be a survey right after this. If you do have any ideas for topics we can cover that can help you and your team, please let us know. We'd love to get that done for you. And with that, thank you all so much. Have a good one.